They're all okay. Since I don't think Bernardo is online, at least I don't see him. I would like to start today, so that we don't lose too much time. I will try to finish up until 6 p.m. My time should be 11 o'clock your time. So the idea for today is to cover the part regarding creation of the alerts from the user interface, and to look at the data sources that we use for automatic creation of alerts into the system. So first, I hope that all of you can hear me. I will type in the message down below just to verify if somebody has trouble hearing me. Okay, I'm trying to share my screen now. Okay, this program. Oof. Seems to me that okay, I'm currently again having a problem that this very nice site does not, very nice Microsoft program does not. Okay. Can you see my screen right at this moment? Okay, it seems to me we also have an issue of sharing the screen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to share it in some other way. Can you see the CapCap browser window? Can you see my browser window? If anybody can confirm. No. Okay, I will try to disconnect from Skype and try to reconnect again. Just a moment. Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot connect anymore at all to Skype for Business. So what I would recommend, because obviously we have technical difficulties that I cannot solve with this platform, what I recommend is that we don't continue this webinar, and I will ask Bernardo really for next time for me to allocate some online platform for webinar, because this obviously doesn't work very well. Unfortunately, I cannot see or see any of your messages at the moment, because I cannot connect at all anymore to the online platform. So if that's okay, we can try to troubleshoot it now, but I really don't know what is the issue with this Skype for Business platform. Let me see. I've got it now. Did you manage to get my screen? I cannot see messages anymore from Skype for Business now. Can anybody provide me audio feedback whether you are seeing my screen? Okay, it seems now I managed to enable this. So okay, regarding the dates. Okay, now it seems I finally managed to activate the screen sharing. So if you're willing, I can continue basically presenting. So my idea for today was really to show you how to create alerts and disseminate them from the user interface. So if you're willing, we can continue with that part. So regarding the schedule, we can schedule it for also for Thursday, same time. So we'll have a next webinar on Tuesday, and I would propose also for a Thursday at the same time. I will ask Bernardo to perhaps use that I book one online webinar tool that you will be all able to access through browsers. So I hope it would bring less issues with setup. So in essence, what I will try to do still, while there is time, I will try to show you how to create an alert and to send one dissemination, and we can basically repeat the same exercise if needed on Tuesday, just to use this time allocation to cover the topic that I think is the most important. So what I would like to switch back again is to the web interface where I logged in. And I hope that all of you by now should be able to log in with role either as administrator or CATAC administrator. So the most important feature that I would like to show today is related to new alerts. So I will switch to Spanish because I'm sure this will make it easier for you to follow up. So new alert, and essentially creation of a new alert from a user interface. It's pretty straightforward. So what we will do is we will basically select all the zones. That is probably a typical use case. So So automatically you will see what are the zones that have been selected. I will go next. And here the next important part, currently it's still enabled. This is something we have to restrict in configuration for CAT administrators. So here we have the scope. Scope is really important in this tool. And it is basically defined by a common alerting protocol specification. So public alert means that this information will be available over a website to anybody. And in general, this is something you should not use. When you create a public alert, that alert will be first shown on a public web, and secondly, any registered user in the system will receive a notification about this alert. So when you create a public alert, we are trying to push this information to all the contacts and subscribers that we know. So it's pretty unrestricted. So typically what you should do is create a restricted, select restricted scope. And what you will notice that the most important difference is that this part here will change. So typically, let's say that we usually will want to notify anybody who is present. And notice that there are 6 groups that have been selected. Basically, those are groups that have been associated with created zones for each of the countries. And I will also here add additional zone, which is basically this one, which is basically a group that includes the 6 groups above. Below, you will see all the contacts that belong to this predefined group. And next thing, I will go back. We will create essentially here, let's say, a test alert. And these fields do not have to be populated. But let's say all that are essentially in this red or orange color are mandatory. So you have to select something. So here we will have just the information. The fields here and above are mandatory by the CAP protocol. The fields that are shown here are basically configurable and through the system configuration. So, and the reason is that in CAP as a protocol basically supports something that's called a profile. And profile are basically customizations or additional rules that each sender or group of alert senders should include. For example, these event location name, event origin time, or event depth, etc. We took them from a United States tsunami CAP profile, but not all of them. Some are really specific things. So let's say if you would like to have some specific field that you would like to exchange in the alerts in your region, this can be configured in the system. Next, we are going to the last part, and this is really a message. In this case, I will send a message. So test alert. So the last two fields, the contact and the name, it's always good if you are creating an alert through web interface. It would be good that you put your name and your official contact in case that anybody wants to clarify anything. So for any such alert, it is really important down the line to have a proper feedback. At the moment, the application does not enforce or verify your contact and sender information. So this can be configured in the system, but it's really, since this is, let's say, a closed type of community that will send restricted alerts, you should probably know each other and who has access to the system and who is authorized to send it. One of the nice features, which I'm not sure if it's configured now, is translation. So this basically automatically translates text from English to Spanish. Why we selected English as a primary language in this configuration? The reason is that incoming alerts from tsunami warning centers from the US are in English only. So in order to try to translate alerts, it was better to specify here English as a primary language for entering alerts. So please, if you will enter alerts in this tool, always specify also English translation first, because this is important. For national systems who do not automatically relay alerts from international sources, this is not necessary, for example. So on a national level, it's possible to have its own system using Spanish only, for example, and then provide translation to English as a secondary language, or to French, Dutch, etc. So it is a very useful feature, actually, especially in tourist areas. So that's something that we have learned in Croatia and also on the Caribbean islands, because there are a high percentage of people who do not speak the native language. So this was a rather important feature in the case of public warning system. Okay. And you could specify here also some attachments. Now I have not prepared any, but for example, I could attach here PDF or JPEG file. I'm not going to do that now. So the system currently limits the type of attachments that you can attach. For example, I think it will actively suppress attachments of office documents. So the idea is really to avoid using editable documents over email, and to really focus preferably to JPEGs and PDFs. So in my opinion, the other types should not be used in the case of let's say alerting. So system can be configured to support any type of attachment, but by default it really is restricted to audio, visual, and PDF format. So that's it, and now I'm going to send an alert. So you will see it will ask you for the confirmation. So here we have the list of current active subscribers on the system. So I will confirm, and preferably all of you who have installed the mobile application or have an SMS or a mobile application, you should receive a notification. Some of you will receive more than one, depending how many times you were subscribed. So, and now it went, and I hope in the next few seconds you should receive a notification. So I see. And you can see here, okay, I received the SMS on my side. Now, this is essentially a way how you can manually send an alert from this system. What is also and how it's typically configured is really to automate generation of alerts from tsunami warning centers. So that was essentially the primary purpose of this system. To do that, essentially, I will go to administration, and here we have, just a moment, now I will switch to English because it will be easier for me to find myself around the application. Okay. So, down here we have basically three menu items: receivers, submitters, and certificates. So receivers are essentially systems, downstream systems, to whom we will push our alert in a CAP format. So, for example, in your case, nothing has been configured as downstream receiver. A receiver, for example, can be national public warning systems. That understand common alerting protocol. So that's let's say one possible scenario. The other that let's say in the Caribbean was often used. Those would be devices like siren controllers, like radio interrupts, who would receive notifications about the new published alerts. So it's not the same type of notification that was sent to your mobile phone or your email address. So it's a bit, this is just, let's say, a web message. So this is really useful in case if you want to have, let's say, integrated systems. So for example, that you would have a common alerting protocol server in your country. And so that would be your downstream server that would receive alerts from our system. And then, for example, that system would again invoke public warning systems, for example, in your regions or major cities. So, and these systems could then again activate downstream devices like siren controllers or let's say gauge dams, etc. Okay. Now the second more interesting part that has been configured in your case are submitters. So submitters are really upstream systems that generate alerts for our system. So in this case, the NTWC and PTWC are upstream systems, so submitters who are basically sending CAP alerts to us, and we basically react on them and distribute them to our subscribers and receivers. So The difference between a subscriber and a receiver, subscriber is typically a person who has a handheld device or email account, etc. And the receiver is really some other computer system that basically does some pre-programmed action. So that's the main difference. So you will see that in this case we have 4 configured submitters, but the more important is really this, let's say, atom file. So let me open this one. And essentially, how this is configured here, we have a submitter type pool, which means that we are actually invoking this submitter on the following URL. So that means that we do it in a loop. So every 120 seconds, we check on this URL whether a new alert has been published. And we can actually copy this URL to a new tab. Right? Let me open a new tab here. And we can see how this XML looks like. So this is not real, so this has been cleaned, but we can see the actual source here. So this is an XML file. Essentially, that is our source. So what we do is we parse this. We see whether there has been a new entry. And when there is a new entry, we perform a set of transformations that so we basically pull or read this alert from NTWC. Then we basically perform a set of transformations to see if this is a valid alert for us. For example, what we do, we change the scope. It's no longer public. It is restricted. We add additional zones, so zones that don't exist in this alert. And you can see, for example, how this kept really looks like their kept alert. You can see it on this URL here. So I will open it. So essentially, this what you see is really an XML protocol. So what we do, essentially, we read this, we apply a set of transformations. For example, below you will see the areas that they have. There is one important part that I forgot to mention, their signature. Now, signature is important, especially if this is not a pull or so-called push subscriber. So because anybody can send us an alert, and we have to verify whether this alert source is really can be trusted. Is this a real deal? So we want to filter out the fake. And really this is done through verification of the signature. Now what happens is this is the original alert, and this we take this original alert and basically parse it. We insert additional areas. So you will see here one area that really represents the origin of the earthquake. And what we do in our alert is essentially we add additional zones that are representing your countries. So those are set of the transformations. Of course, again, this is again configurable. And after we do all this transformation, we create another signature because we have to sign this modified alert as our alert. And then we send the notifications with the URL to all of you. So that is how the whole process works, essentially. So in the essence, what the system does, it takes, it reads or tracks what NTWC and PTWC are publishing. If we detect a new alert, we download it, we do some modifications, we sign it with our key, and then we distribute the URL to this alert to all of you over dissemination methods that are configured. That means email, mobile application, and SMS. So essentially what happens when you receive a notification, like in your case, so what I will now do, I will take a look at the messages that were sent a bit while ago, sent messages. And here I will look at, for example, can search it here for me. Okay, so now I have search for messages that were sent to me. For example, this is really an SMS message that the system sent to my mobile phone a little bit ago. So this is actually the exact text of the SMS that I had received on my mobile phone. And here is the URL. So on my mobile phone, what I will not. So if I would click on this link, I would basically be redirected to the following page. And this is really, let's say, a web view. So let's say if I would look it on a mobile phone, it would look more like, just a moment. Filter tools. It would look like, oops. So on a mobile phone, it would look like this, approximately. So, and this is something that you have received probably. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just remember a question I had. Actually, I sent an email. I downloaded the app for iPhone, but when I entered to the app, it asked me to select a country, and Costa Rica is not listed, not also any other country from the region.
No, you should click on restricted access.
Yeah, but then it asks me for a verification code.
So this is, let's say, just put UNESCO IOC. That was
all together.
That is all together without any spaces. Yes. This was essentially, if you look at the document that Bernardo shared.
It's not working on the code in a regular letters or capital letters.
It doesn't matter. What is important is that you don't put any spaces inside.
No, I'm not putting any space or any dash or anything. Just UNESCO IOC all together,
okay.
And it doesn't work.
Okay, I will check. I will check tomorrow. I have iPhone next door, but I will check and see what is going on.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So this is a message that you should receive, and essentially, what is the difference? So in this case, there are quite a few items here, down here, but let's say here you see a basic information together with the map. And in case, let's say, of alert that was received from external, from NCWC, we will go and take a look again. So what I will do, I will again search for SMS messages sent to me. Okay. So you see this tsunami information. So this message that was sent a few minutes ago was initiated from user interface that I did, but this one here was essentially this night or this morning. So if I open this URL. What I can see, let me go back. Okay, here. So this is again leading to our system, but you will see that this is a preliminary quake, and here you can basically, if you click on this link cap.xml, you could see the original, let's say, document that was sent. I shouldn't be logged in. Okay. And I can see here the why doesn't it? Okay. Let's empty. Probably has a transformation. Just check with my colleague. I'll just send a notification to my colleague to check what's going on. Okay. What is in this case? What is important is that let's say this message has been a little bit changed from the original. So what is important, and let us try to find this alert on their alert site. So you can see that it was published a few days ago. What we noticed, they have some problems on their side that we noticed a little bit while ago. They don't always have a valid certificate for communication. So that's something that we just fixed this morning, because in some cases some alerts would not be published, so could not be downloaded directly from their site. Okay. Okay. So this site was a duplicate, and when was it sent? Let's see. The duplicate. No, this one also. Okay. We'll have to check that. Okay. So the idea is that essentially this is what you're going to get just rewritten and to your mobile phones, etc. So what is in this case important thing is how it's checked. So what happens here, we have under administration certificate. So essentially certificates are important how to distinguish whether the incoming alert is authorized or not. So what we are actually doing on a server side is whenever we receive an alert, we look at the sign, at the signature, take a look at the certificate that was attached to that signature and verify that it's in our list. If it is in our list, then we basically know from which source the alert came from. So why is that important? For example, it would be possible also to subscribe to some other, let's say, alert sources. For example, Google Alerts also has a CAP CAP source. Okay. And but we still so we could receive alerts from various submitters, but we will always check signature, and based on this, we will know to whom it belongs. So that is the idea. Okay. Okay. So you will notice also on the site we have basically NTWC and PTWC sources. So I can go back to submitters. So this carry the file. So they are essentially should contain the same information. The problem was that PTWC contains older RSS feeds. So, and they don't always contain the same information. So that means that an alert can be received through either the Atom feed or through RSS feed. And what we noticed also that they don't always have the same text. So this is somehow normal. What we basically wanted to do is really to react if there has been a published alert on any of these feeds, not just on Atom or RSS feed. So our understanding is that NTWC or these CAP feeds are basically a newer standard, and they need to be officially supported by because the PTWC and NTWC are members of the United States IPOS, that's Integrated Public Alerting and Warning System. So they are mandated by law to really use the Common Alerting Protocol. And RSS feeds, as we understand, are older, essentially, implementations, and they carry different text, a bit of different text. So in our opinion, what is really important in your case is just that you are notified that something is going on, and the text itself is not that crucial. I guess all the responsible people in your seismological and tsunami warning community will have to anyway go and investigate the direct sources of information in additional detail before making any kind of decision. So whether to let's say ignore the alert or really to raise it through national warning systems. Okay, so how this, I will just show you this PTWC So how it essentially works. So notice that here we have no URL. So it works a little bit differently. So this is a type of push subscriber. That means that on our system we have a special job or script that really what it does, it goes to PTWC website. That's search for PTWC here, and we have RSS feed. And let's check Caribbean side. So notice in this case, this is the other type of file. The CapCap does not support this file format directly because it's not structured, let's say, enough. But what we have is external scripts that runs on the same machine, which basically takes this format and converts it into CAP protocol. That means it creates Atom, basically Atom and, sorry, not Atom, the CAP file of structure according to the standard, and then it pushes it or uploads it to CapCap server. And that's the difference here that you have essentially, if you look at the configuration of the submitters, you will notice that this Atom are configured as pool submitters, which means that our CapCap system is responsible for pulling information from this URL every 120 seconds, versus RSS, where we have a push submitter, which means there is external script that really uploads the CAP file to our system. So that those are two different mechanisms, and we wanted really to have two of them because I think it gives less room for error. Now the only question is how often we should pull the alert. That's a good question. So at the moment, by design, we cannot support a resolution that is less than 60 seconds. So that is a minimum. We put it initially to 120 seconds because we had some performance problems. So that there were simply too many jobs on the virtual machine, and it would have a high okay. So that is the idea. What we have here, you have also, let's say, the transformations that are executed on the received alert. So you can see here. So what we basically check, for example, has the alert already been created in our system? So this is important because if we check every minute, we will see the new, we will see existing alerts again and again. So, and we obviously don't want to send alert notification every minute. So that's, for example, this transformation really checks, has this alert has been already received? If yes, don't import it again and don't notify again because this has already been done. So we add all the zones, meaning areas that is covering your countries. Check if info area is empty. That is basically verify if that there is at least one zone in the alert. We changed the alert scope to restricted. We define which groups should receive notifications. So this has been selected to this group. So that means, let's say if you would want to have a submitter that would send alerts only to Panama. For example, let's say that Panama would like to have their own alert source. For example, let's say that on the coast of Panama, there are, I don't know, 5 buoys that could provide alerts if some, let's say, tsunami wave is detected. This could be basically configured in the system that there is a daemon or a job that detects this, formats XML message according to CAP standard, and then uploads it to this system. And we would recognize it based on its signature. And we could, just for this alert, say, look, don't send it to group NTWC, PTWC notifications, but send it to group Panama. So, for example, that's a possibility of the system. So this can be configured if needed in the future. So there are also, let's say, the times have to be properly set up, because what we notice there are some differences between the time when alert was sent and the time when what that was recorded in the original CAP document itself. And also there are some, so alert mechanisms really defines to which, let's say, for example, let's say for Panama, that they don't want really notifications sent over SMS and mobile phones, but just notifications sent over email. So that could be also defined through these transformations. So transformations are really programmable pieces of codes that are assembled in certain way depending on submitter configuration. So that is a important part of the submitters. What else is here? We have covered last time the groups and subscribers. We have additionally here logs. That is something that usually is just for more geared towards system administrators. So for example, what we like frequently to check is, are there any exceptions here? You know, so we see that there was one. Now my colleague Daniel told me that we had some duplicate in the system. And here we can see that we have problem of connecting to the email client. So that's a problem. So that's more for system administrators. Now for what could be useful also for you and others, if you notice the problems that you have in user interface, let's say that something doesn't work properly. Let's say you notice that, for example, what we had on alert, I said this is a test alert, and let's say that this function doesn't work. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say user feedback. I will basically say, okay, let's say next, and say the and I will submit it. Up. Okay, so this I should receive an email notification on the back office with your username and some session information, so where you were on a menu, etc. So that's another part. You can see some of the reports, for example, here. How many messages were sent, their distribution based on type, so how many SMSs, how many FTMs. Notice that we essentially in the beginning were testing mainly the mobile application when we set up the system, but now let's say we are sending more SMS messages than mobile ones. We can also see how many alerts you can even, for example, could export this information into some, let's say, I think Excel file that I can use then down the line from some analysis. If needed, we can see how many subscribers. Let's see. Okay, we're on Android that I have to check. So we can also get some information. So if we know about what are the versions of Android, notice that this was really currently on your site. These are all the information. So this was essentially disabled so that this information is not collected in the meantime, but this can be turned on. This is more important in case of, let's say, public warning to really see what type of devices users have, and in order to see if there are any compatibility problems. Okay, so that is that part. What we need to check further. You also can, for example, if you want to upload some files here, if you want to attach them to your alert. So the idea is, for example, we can put logo, and we could use this URL and include it to alerts that we are sending. This feature, in my opinion, in your case, probably is not that necessary, but potentially you can always, for example, upload the documentation here and put some, for example, let's say that you want to upload user documentation here, and then you can go to system configuration and the modified, let me see, I think it's called sidebar. Oops. Of course, for this you will need to know a little bit of HTML. And we could put, for example, additional option. I should have put an URL. I hope I didn't do any errors here. I need to put start tag here. refresh the page. Now I have a link logo that will lead to our document. In my opinion, since these links on the left are visible to anybody, I don't recommend putting any documentation in this way because essentially, since this system is more targeting, let's say, restricted use, so sharing such subscriber manuals this way could affect security of the system. So I would not advise to put, let's say, any instructional manuals publicly online, but better to distribute them over email to all interested parties. So in order to delete this change, I will go again here to system configuration, and I'm going to edit sidebar text, sidebar, edit, and remove this link. Save. Okay, yeah, so it's gone. The idea behind, you will notice that the number of options here is, let's say, limited. It has some around 50, I think. Okay, 50 configuration options. There an order of magnitude more that can be configured through the configuration file. They are not allowed here because of system security. So the idea is that any type of configuration that could affect or help anybody, hacker or attacker on a system, to compromise the operating system where this runs should not be editable through the web interface. So this is essentially by design put this way. There is additional module that can be used to edit even such configuration through web browser, but this is something that we prefer not to do over the web. Those are actions that really should be done through command line interface, so by the system administrator. The capabilities, I think we don't have really a complete set of, let's say, documentation for possible configuration items because there are simply too many. So I think the last time I checked, there were over 600 configuration items, some 30 different template files that can be used to customize the system. So it's, and the best way to see the capabilities really is to take a look at technical notes, and this is what you can use to see about regarding the feature topics, how certain feature groups are really configured. Okay, so that's regarding the setup. Well, for the next week, for the next session, what I would like to, so I will try to address the iOS problem, and I will try to reach it tomorrow to if I manage to reproduce the problem on my side. But what for the next setup, I would really like to go through, let's say, tasks regarding the, let's say, subscription. So how to manage subscribers and how to assist subscribers to log in to solve any issues that you might have. So essentially, the idea is to what we're really going to do is go through the, let's say, this administrator manual document and subscriber manual, and to try to, let's say, repeat this session live and show you by example how it looks like. In part, that is what we did during the training in September. So that is something that I would like to show you really live on the next webinar, how to do that part. Okay. Are there any questions from your side? So regarding the contents of the messages, notice that in most cases the text of the message will be directly, this description part will be directly taken from the US alert. So we do not change the text of the message at all for all these automated system. So what I do recommend, whenever you receive an alert, it would be good that you really go and look at PTWC and NTWC website. So that is my recommendation. So because one of the issues that we have noticed, for example, in RSS feeds that that we read from PTWC, this was shown here. Now look how the text is shown. You see? So everything has been pre-formatted and joined into a single line. But if you go to their website, just a moment, that was Caribbean, if I remember. Oh, those are old ones. So notice the interesting part here. Look, they claim there to be no messages, but when you look at their RSS feed, that is just a moment here, they will have a message. Sorry, that was really issued. So this is the message from October, 23rd of October. Oh, sorry, I thought it was on sent later. And the message archive, open the message here, and now you have a better readable information in some cases. So that's what I would always advise you to do. And here, if you click on the message text, it will be nicely formatted. And unfortunately, the information that we read in this automated job doesn't have this formatting. Everything has been joined into a single line. So that's why I would always advise you to really go and open the original tsunami warning on the site. So that's one thing. The second thing is that the amount of text really differs between the NTWC and PTWC feed. So it's not the same information. Jose, are you the only one that, do others see my screen? Or is it just that Jose Toledo has problem, Francisco Toledo that has problem with seeing my screen? Okay. So, Mr. Toledo, I would recommend that you maybe restart your client, because I had similar problems with Skype for Business, and the only way to make it work was to restart it. What I wanted to show you additionally is, so I have shown you the data source, and maybe it will be good that you also, you probably know that, but just record this this URL. So this is a website that basically publishes the information about the alert. The other one is NTWC. Maybe it's here. Maybe there is a link. No, sorry. Then I will have to look at it in the following NTWC cat feed. Was just a moment. Okay, this is actually the main site, and for example, the information that we have seen, let's say this last source, so here is, for example, a CAP file. You can see that they have English and Spanish message also. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we cannot really have, I didn't see the automated way to extract the Spanish message out. This is something to watch for. But in my opinion, if there is a significant threat that will be issued, my guess is that probably this initial warning in a CAP format will be sent first in English language. So my understanding, especially for tsunami warnings that are close to shores, probably should be disseminated as soon as possible. So that, in my opinion, is more important than having the information in Spanish. In general, as I understood it, my impression, at least, was that seismic information is really disseminated faster than the tsunami warning. So I think in your case, it would be, we did not really push for it, but maybe it would be good also to integrate some into this warning system, also notifications about any significant seismic event. Because it's hard for me to say, but that this really should be measured. But my impression is that the publication of seismic events usually is faster than publications of tsunami warning. And so although it's I now understand the problem, how it's hard really to distinguish the difference between, let's say, seismic only event and seismic event that can generate tsunami. This is probably to be good that you are warned in case of any significant seismic event that happens in your region. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Well, if not, I think we could conclude for today. I apologize on behalf of UNESCO and and Microsoft and my machine because of technical difficulties. I will try to contact Bernardo and see if we can maybe try to use some different technical platform for the presentations next week. Next week, what I would really like to address is, let's say, as I mentioned, how to support subscribers, their registration and troubleshooting if anything goes wrong. And maybe also to, I don't know who would be most, let's say, who would make a decision, but it would be good that we agree how to schedule the system test. So I will try next week really to provide through email a proposal how we should implement the scheduled system test. And the only thing is, from your side, it'd be good that we provide that. I don't know who should be responsible to provide the go-ahead decision. And the whole idea is that we have a scheduled system alert, so that the old notification chain is tested at least once a month. Okay, well, with that, I thank you very much for the participation. I hope this was informative, and I hope to talk to you again on Tuesday. Thank you very much, and I wish you a pleasant day.